Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? And today we're reacting to another Piers Morgan episode because he has some interesting guests that I'm curious to hear their opinions. Of course, we got Joe Walsh. Shout out Joe Walsh. Of course, we have the guy on the bottom right that I've seen, I believe, on TikTok. Um, he had some interesting opinions. I would argue good opinions regarding Joe Biden. We got Dave Smith, and we got um, the lady in the middle. The beautiful progressive. So let's dive right into it and see how this goes.
Smell for as long as possible.
Yeah, careful what you wish for. I think there's two parts to this. Look, I would love to see Joe Biden be okay. And I mean that from a health perspective, the fact he's been
Cap. Cap, I don't believe any Republican that says this. Man, I don't believe any Republican who says this. You do not care about Joe Biden's health. That is cap.
hiding that we haven't seen him. I'm glad that apparently he's doing better and he's going to address the nation tomorrow night. At the same time, if he's
and recognize the Republican the way they say things, right? Because he says, I'm worried about your health, insinuating that he thinks that he's framing Joe Biden as so sickly that he can't even run office. That is why he said it like that. It didn't come out of sincerity. It came out of deceit. So Republicans are two-faced. A lot of them I'm noticing on media especially are two-faced. They speak out of the side of their mouth. So recognize what he did right there, because right now he's about to say that Joe Biden is not fit to run the country right now. That's Republicans were clamoring for him not to run again, and then he decides not to run again, and now their rhetoric is, oh, that means Joe Biden is not fit to run now, even though Joe Biden in his own letter said he's going to finish his term. He just doesn't want to run again. He doesn't think he's best fit to run again. He doesn't think he'll win if he runs again. That's all that means. There's no deeper meaning. It's ridiculous.
clearly incapacitated,
See?
you need someone to actually be the acting president of the United States of America, not a de facto president, which is what
clearly see, and notice how they talk. They think they're so absolute in their opinions. They think what they say. Oh man, Republicans have been, ever since this presidential election, I've been seeing the worst out of Republicans.
is right now. Look, there's a yin and yang here. If you see Kamala as president, does it help her campaign? Maybe. But if she's the Kamala Harris that we've learned to know, I think it could also just be a disaster for a presidential campaign. It's truly a coin flip at this point. So, yeah, be careful what you wish for in one aspect of this. But at the same time, it's like, all right, let's see what Harris looks like. I don't believe it's a great product. I don't believe she's going to be a great president if she's filling in. I think she's a disaster when you see her on stage, and I think she's unlikable. And the Democrats decided that in the last presidential primary they had with her, they didn't like her, they didn't vote for it, they didn't support her, they didn't give her money. This is a coronation now, so let's see Kamala Harris. I think she's running the country right now, so let's let her have the job.
Okay.
That's a stupid opinion, and also she didn't. They chose, or Biden won because Biden was the better candidate. Like, they always try to make everything so conspiratorial. Like there's a deeper meaning, but no, she just wasn't the best candidate. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kamala Harris either, but I'll pick Kamala Harris 10 times out of 10 over Donald Trump.
I mean, Francesco, I watched Kamala Harris's first big speech yesterday, the one where Biden called in, and the contrast between the two of them couldn't be more glaring. I mean, Biden just sounded like a very old man doddering his way through a sort of call to wish everybody well. She did look the part. I mean, she's very telegenic. She's obviously intelligent. She was warm. She cracked some jokes.
Let's see if Piers Morgan actually stays neutral in today's video. Let's see if he actually does it. Well, let's
She had a few
watch it.
zingers
Let's
about
watch
Trump.
it.
And whilst everything Ben has said is true, everything changes when you become the presidential candidate for your party. And there is a chance here for the Democrats.
Is that guy named Ben? Everything he said is true? That's not true. Why would you say everything he said is true? The fuck?
To have a massive and dramatic reset if she plays it right.
I mean, yeah, and even if she plays it wrong, Piers, I mean, even if she can just end a full sentence and be nominally coherent, she's a much better option for not just Democratic voters, but I think independents and undecideds who obviously see Donald Trump. They know all the drama that comes along with him, and they're like, yeah, let's go with this. Let's take a chance. But look, I think this is a massive win for Trump. I don't understand why the right's not happier. You guys need to be happy, okay? Donald Trump beat Joe Biden, and not a single ballot was cast. Boom. I don't know why this is not more of a cause for celebration. I understand that your Superman does have a kryptonite, which happens to be black female prosecutors, Tanya Chutkin and Letitia
Point Francesca, is that her name? Point Francesca. That was a good one.
James, Fonnie Willis, and now, oops, Kamala Harris. But I still think you should just take a win. I love, there's a lot of whining going on, and I don't get it. Like, in no world does like a baseball team get to sue another baseball team because like they put in a left-handed relief pitcher instead of a righty, and they were writing for the righty. What's going on?
Yeah, but let me say this in response quickly. It's not whining. This is different, and Republicans know it's different because number one, the media is about to give $1 billion to $2 billion in in-kind donation to the Harris campaign with
the media gives money to Donald Trump. Minus point.
A 30-day Democratic convention telling everyone that she is amazing. Number two, perspectives change. If you're on the top,
that's not a point. So what? So
Titanic and you hit an iceberg and there's a really crappy little dinghy boat in the middle of the water, that boat looks amazing to you in that moment because it's a life raft and it might save your life. That is Kamala Harris's campaign right now. You're compared to a ship that's going down, and the only thing that can possibly save you is that crappy little ship in the sea, which you'll be in love with for the next 3 or 4 months. So it's not whining, it's just knowing, it's knowing what's going to happen here.
So I love your analogy, and let me just
okay, let me bring in Dave Smith, who couldn't resist.
Wait, does that mean that Donald Trump is the iceberg?
Hang on, Francesca, let me get Dave to respond.
So you let him respond. So he had an opening statement. She had an opening statement. He had a long-winded response. She can't say this one sentence. Neutral Piers. Okay.
Come to that.
No, that's not what I said.
And he was so quick to want to go to Dave Smith too.
And I think you know that.
No, the iceberg's Donald Trump.
Okay, Dave Smith.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that there's a lot of relief amongst Democrats right now because they were very concerned with the problems that Joe Biden has as a candidate. The issue is, look, there's a reason why we've all been speculating about Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton. And from the very beginning, when there was always a question mark over whether Biden would make it or not. There's a reason why people skip popular vice president. She has never been a great political candidate. And the reality of the situation is that despite the enormous spin that's going on right now, it is not true that Joe Biden
has never been a good political candidate. What? That's not true. That's not true at all. Never been a good one? Who's been a good political candidate then? Or only presidential primary nominees good presidential political candidates? Because you said political, you didn't say presidential. And Kamala Harris, from my memory, got actually a lot of support. She just couldn't beat out Joe Biden, from my memory at the very least. So I don't know, man. It's going to look like I'm a Democrat because of this.
Made some decision that his country is more important than him. He fought everyone until the very bitter end. Kamala Harris has a serious uphill battle right now to try to beat Donald Trump. She's only got a few weeks till convention. I'm not saying this as a Trump supporter who's whining. I'm just looking at the situation in front of me. Donald Trump is the overwhelming favorite right now.
Yeah, I think that.
Is he? It weren't the polls I saw recently that there's not an overwhelming gap between the two. And he's recently, I feel like I saw Kamala Harris over Trump. Just chatting, man.
That's completely true. And so
now I will also point out this did come out maybe last week, maybe 6 days ago. Well, that's not that long ago, actually. And you notice, I'm calling you out, Piers Morgan. I am calling you out for this neutral stance you think you have.
At the situation in front of me, Donald Trump is the overwhelming favorite right now.
Yeah, I think that's completely true, and certainly in the swing states. Joe Walton.
That's completely true, certainly in swing states. Now, that could be true. I would have to go look back in terms of the polling 6 days ago. or whenever this was recorded. This is probably wasn't recorded 6 days ago. Probably was recorded maybe at most 2 weeks ago. So probably recorded after.
What do you make of it? And I can't ever remember a period in American politics quite like this in my entire lifetime. I was born in 1965. It's absolutely extraordinary, the series of events. The fact that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump where he was hit by bullets and we're not actually leading with that so soon after it happened is remarkable. But it's a very fast-moving thing, this. And the thing about politics is momentum can play a big part. You know, Trump has arguably, you could say, peaked way too early here in this campaign. You know, everything's riding well for him. He's doing great. The comeback is in place. It's all secure. Looks like he can't lose. But as he said to me on the phone on Saturday night when we spoke, 4 months is a very long time in politics.
He spoke with Donald Trump on the phone. Okay.
We've just seen what can happen in 3 weeks. You know, 3.5 weeks ago, there was the debate to come, and Joe Biden was telling everyone, I'm going to take Trump down at the debate. Well, you know, 3.5 weeks later, he's gone. So anything can happen here. What's your reading, Joe, of where we are?
And Piers, I agree 100%. We are living in unprecedented times. I mean, the past 8 to 9 years. 3.5 years ago, a sitting president lost an election, and he still hasn't conceded. And he tried to overthrow an election. You're right. We had an assassination attempt on a president just a few weeks ago. So, yeah, these are crazy, unprecedented times. Look, this isn't complicated. I don't want Trump back in the White House, but he's winning right now. He's got a comfortable lead. Joe Biden wasn't going to beat him. The Democrats found another candidate, and she has a legitimate shot at challenging him and beating him. I think the factor that all of us have underestimated, no matter where you stand on her as a candidate, is the enthusiasm. There was zero enthusiasm for Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, any other candidate, would have generated huge enthusiasm. That's a wild card. That's all. That's a wild card.
It's a reset. Piers, the whole election.
Let me bring Ben. Ben, I know you've got to go in about 4 minutes, Ben. So let me ask you this, Ben. I mean,
okay, he cut off a Republican. Okay, you know, a little tiny point for Piers.
The money's been pouring in for Kamala Harris in record levels, if you believe what the Democrats are saying. 18, 90 million within 24 hours. And all right, you can cast a skeptical eye over the exact number.
Interesting. It's completely true if you believe what the Democrats are saying. Interesting.
But clearly, the Democratic machine is now pouring behind Kamala Harris. That will in itself energize the race in a way that Donald Trump would not have had to have dealt with if it was still CP Joe Biden. So I think there's a new challenge for him. You know, if I was advising Trump, and I'm not, but if I was, I would say to him, be very careful about going too ad hominem on Kamala Harris.
Oh, well, this is Ben. So you didn't really cut him off, but never mind. I'll take that point away. But he's leaving soon, so I'm not going to blame him, I guess.
No, I would stick to her policies. I would stick to her record. You know, this is a woman who believed in defunding the police. This is a woman ultimately who was made the immigration czar and said.
That border czar one is weird. I'm not going to lie. I didn't really look into it deeply, but from what I did say, there's conflicting. It seems like she was called border czar before, so I don't know, man. Someone correct me about that. The defund the police, from what I found, she doesn't want to defund the police necessarily. This is why this is kind of an inappropriate type of thing to say for someone like Piers Morgan. Is when you assign the idea that she wants to defund the police, you're indicating that she supports the same type of movement as these random lefties, right? Lefties want to defund the police because then just take money from them. What Kamala Harris said is that she wants to look at their budget and see if their resources are being allocated properly in the right places. And if not, then those funds need to be lowered. So they technically mean the same thing, but the intentionality and the process is obviously very different. I mean, I don't see why Republicans would be mad at that necessarily, because they say all the time, where's my tax dollars going to? And they don't want their tax dollars being used on things that are not being used correctly. So if the police are getting funded for a particular thing and they're not using those resources to its maximum capacity and they are wasting money, then you would lower their budget, right? So, you know what another interesting thing is? Like, we see it on TV all the time, right? Like a business, and these businesses sometimes have to spend money for stuff because they don't want their budget lowered. Like, well, I'm sure we've seen like an episode of The Office where they have $1,200 extra dollars to spend, so they just spend it on a frivolous thing, and that's because they don't want you to lower their budget. So, I mean, if you think about it like that, are you necessarily angry for like the military or the police needing to like just use that last maybe 1,000 whatever dollars? I'm just throwing out a number because they don't want their budget lowered for future resources. Maybe this quarter you didn't spend as much money, but you don't want your budget lowered, so you're gonna have to just spend this extra amount of money so you can use it to its full capacity next quarter. I feel like that's an interesting line to draw right there.
Don't come in, and 8 million people came in, right? So there are lots of ways that you can go after Kamala Harris about her record. I think if Trump tries to do what he often does and go ad hominem with her, it could backfire.
Sure. Look, I think this is a blessing that she is now going to be the nominee, that this isn't going to be an open convention, because otherwise, who are you campaigning against for the next 30 days of the convention, right? You do 20% of the time with Kamala, 10% with Gavin Newsom, 5%, with Shapiro. I mean, this was going to get really complicated. Now Joe Biden is gone. Donald Trump knows who he's running against. It's Kamala. You stick to her record and why she's so unpopular with the Democratic Party. But this is also, Piers, so different. The media, it was so depressed. The Democratic Party was so depressed. The donors had dried up the money for Joe Biden. They forced him out. Some would even describe it as a soft coup, where if you don't resign 25th.
Republicans are so cringe, bro. The fact that they would call this a coup, Joe Biden leaving, and they're making up the idea that he was forced out, even though they wanted him out. Republicans are hypocrites, bro. They're such hypocrites. And then go like January 6th, nah, that was okay. Like, the hypocrisy, bro.
And you're going to have some serious problems. He goes into hiding. Any other country this happens, our State Department say, we think there might be a coup attempt going on in another nation. And now we're at this reality. And I think what Democrats understand.
That's such a stupid point. Republican, it annoys me.
This is their life.
Now that
this is their second chance at holding on to power. So every mega donor says we want to keep power. Right. Everyone in around the White House that knows Kamala, we want the power. Every congressman that's running for re-election desperately needs a better candidate. Up ballot matters to down ballot races. And every other senator wants to keep power. So they are all in. And that's why every poll that's out right now is completely and utterly worthless. It means nothing. Do I believe that Donald Trump has a lead? Yes, but it's worthless because this is a total reset. It's a completely new race we've never seen before in American political history. It is a race to the finish. It's going to be something we've never witnessed. Now, if you're Trump, you stick to the basics. The economy's stupid. Kamala Harris is Joe Biden 2.0. She's unpopular, and she's going to give you exactly what you just saw for the last 4 years. But he has got to stay focused, because the one thing I'll say is the media is going to treat Kamala Harris like she's Princess Diana for the next 3.5 months.
No, let me chill. Let me chill. I'm looking like a Joe Biden shill. No, keep going. Keep going, Ben. Keep going.
Betray her. She is now a beauty queen, and they love her.
Well, you can see that, and it does feel like.
Wait, what? What did he say? Wait, what was this?
The media is going to treat Kamala Harris like she's Princess Diana for the next 3.5 months. They will never betray her. She is now a beauty queen, and they love her.
Like, anytime things don't go the Republicans' way, they just go media. It's so annoying.
Well, you can see that, and it does feel like a coronation. That may not be the smartest move by the Democrats to make it.
You can see that it does look like a coronation. I'm Piers Morgan, and I'm neutral. Shut the fuck up, Piers.
Look like they basically ridden roughshod over democracy to make her the queen. Hey, Joe, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just quibble on that one point, Piers. Look, a coup is when you lose an election and try to overthrow it. That's a coup. A president deciding not to run. No, hold on, Ben. Let me finish, then jump in. A president deciding not to run is not a coup. And this notion, Piers, of a coronation, Biden decided not to run. Any Democrat could have thrown their hat in the ring. This isn't an election. It's a primary. The primary voters pick delegates. The delegates at the convention, any Democrat could have thrown their hat in the ring. This isn't One, no, hold on, Ben. Let me finish, then jump in. A president deciding not to run is not a coup. And this notion, Pierce, of a coronation, Biden decided not to run. Any Democrat could have thrown their hat in the ring. This isn't an election, it's a primary. The primary voters pick delegates. The delegates at the convention pick the nominee. This is not a coup, and any other Democrat could jump in and challenge her.
Interesting. See, I didn't look into it, but he clearly, plainly elicited how that works, and he's a former politician. And what's the interesting part about it is all the people you would say would run against Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom endorsed Kamala Harris, right? And it was between him, the Shapiro guy. I haven't checked if he endorsed Kamala Harris, and I guess RFK, but he's not running with the DNC, so he wants to stay independent. So all the Democrats I've seen have just been endorsing Kamala. None of them has been running against her. And if the structural process that Joe Walsh elicited earlier is how it works, is they choose the delegates and the delegates choose the primary candidate, because it is a primary, of course, then I don't. Again, what are the Republicans complaining about? Let's see what they say. Let's see
I'll say this last thing.
Well, I mean,
I'll say this last thing.
Doug Smith.
Look,
Actually, let me just ask Benny. Bennett, do you have to go? Can you wait a couple of minutes, or what's your deal?
I've got 3 more minutes. Yes.
All right, well, let Ben have his final blast back at Joe, and then we'll carry on
let
the
me
rest
say
of the
this.
panel.
I read this. I read this yesterday, and it came from an elected official, and it said, "quote If this was happening, referring to what's happening now politically, in any other country, the State Department would be calling this a coup attempt. The president in hiding."
Whoa! This is I get. Let me hold on. Don't let this. Don't let. There's a reason why he framed it in a certain way.
Yesterday, and it came from an elected official, and it said, "quote
It came from an elected official. Why didn't you say who the elected official was? An elected official could be a lot of different people, but more so than anything, it could be a Republican who just says what Donald Trump says. And Donald Trump just says a bunch of lies. The fact that he was like, oh, it came from an elected official and is using this to codify his responses, very sneaky. So you gotta catch these sneaky things. You gotta catch it.
If this was happening, referring to what's happening now politically, in any other country, the State Department would be calling this a coup attempt. The president in hiding, president, no pictures of him, letterhead that doesn't have a presidential seal, a signature that's been underlined that the president doesn't typically do, and yet we're acting like this is normal. Joe Biden was forced out. There was something that happened to him, whether
can't prove any of this, but okay.
It was medically
Joe Biden was forced out by his own brain, Ben. Joe Biden's brain did a coup on Joe Biden.
He didn't want to leave. He did not want to leave. Days before he...
Yo, Republicans are so pathetic. They've been complaining about Joe Biden for the longest time. He decides not to run, and now they're bitching because they knew that they would have won if Joe Biden stayed. What they're complaining about is not about Joe Biden. They don't give two rats' asses about Joe Biden. They're complaining because they thought they would have won 100% if Joe Biden stayed. That's why they're upset. And that's why they're bitching like little babies. Like, Jesus Christ. Oh man, why it annoys me so much is like they don't care about like the country. Like they don't. They just complain about the dumbest things. They make up stuff. They make the democratic process, they make the government, they make all of the United States of America seem like trash and corrupt. Like, what people do they care about? Like, who are they supporting? They're not supporting the country. That's why all this stuff just pisses me off, because I'm pro-America. So I want America to be the strongest country in the world. So all of this stuff is just annoying.
He was saying, I'm in this. And I think this was clearly the cabinet and other Democrats that said, you're either going to leave or we're going to force you out. You are done. And now we've got a president that's going to talk to the nation tomorrow night. I'm sorry. This happens in another country. We'd all be talking about it this way, but we're acting like it's normal. This is not normal.
What's so funny about you, Ben? What's so funny about Republicans is that this would never happen because their God Emperor Donald Trump can literally do whatever he wants, and no Republican would ever step out of line to criticize him. No one would step out of line to say you shouldn't be president anymore. And you're so jealous that Democrats actually hold their own accountable. You're so jealous.
What did he say? You guys just. Oh, hold up. What did he say? I don't care if I look like a Democrat. Republicans keep on saying dumb shit, bro.
No Republican would ever step out of line to criticize him. No one would step out of
You tried to kill him?
line to say you shouldn't be president anymore. And you're so jealous that Democrats actually.
You guys just tried to kill him. Yeah, he's one of those. He's one of those. He's one of those. Even though the assassin was a Republican, but all right, whatever.
Hold their own accountable. You're so jealous that we'd actually be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't run again.
Sure, I'm not jealous.
Entire party right. It's just so funny. It's like if you lose in November, you're gonna run him again.
You tried to put him in prison. You tried to put him in prison. You tried to take his property, and then they tried to kill him.
And Piers Morgan's. Oh yeah, he's right. He's right. Go Ben. Try to put him in prison. I mean, he broke a lot of laws. You break laws, you go to prison. Try to take his property, break laws. That's what happens. And he also used certain policies to uplift his business and property, but we're not gonna talk about that. And then try to kill him is crazy. See, Republicans are already starting to show who they really are. Now they think the Democrats set up a whole assassination plot. Oh my God, bro.
I'm not jealous of anybody that celebrates that.
Who tried to kill him? Ben, who tried to kill him?
A radical young 20-year-old tried to kill him. And everybody's like, I love this. They're like, well, what's the motive?
He was a Republican. Love how you didn't mention that. Maybe he didn't know. This was 6 days ago. I don't remember when it came out. Should I give him the benefit of the doubt? Fuck no. What am I giving this guy the benefit of the doubt for? Like, what are we doing right now? I don't like what.
He wanted to kill Donald Trump. That's the motive.
Ben, careful. You said they. They tried to kill him. Who's they?
People that hate Trump. People that hate Trump.
Wait.
That's what I'm saying.
You notice how he said people who hate Trump. He was a Republican. People who hate Trump. They're so manipulative. Catch this. Catch it. They will pick and choose their words to manipulate.
A 20-year-old kid did it, right? A demented, lonely 20-year-old kid
who hated Donald Trump. People that hate Trump, they want to put him in jail. They want to take all the things. They tried to overthrow the will of the people in the first election.
I love, bro. Joe Walsh is catching him on his bullshit, and I love it right now because he's like, "What are you talking about? They, people who hated Donald Trump. Like, we see your tactic. You're trying to compare Democrats to this person, and because he wasn't a Democrat, you changed your rhetoric to people who hated Donald Trump. It's so manipulative." Sorry, I'm gonna stop pausing. My apologies. Stop pausing.
Walsh. Walsh. Go back to the very beginning.
Let me jump in. I just want to say this. We don't actually know the motivation of the shooter, but if you want to look for blame as to how this 20-year-old deranged kid with an AR-15 was able to unload 8 bullets at President Trump, it's because the Secret Service dropped the ball in such spectacular fashion and left President Trump exposed so badly, which could have led to him being killed and should have done, really. It was a miracle that he survived, that the director of Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, has today resigned or probably been fired.
A week later.
So that is probably where my main blame would go, is their failure to protect the president.
You don't even know what was going on, though. So, you're just as bad. You don't have any information on, like, why they were formatted the way they were formatted, what was going on. I heard a great point from Myron. I know, right? I usually criticize Myron on this channel, but he was talking with Destiny, and he was saying that the CIA director wouldn't really know the ground operation that is going on because they're more of a figurehead up top. So you can't always say that they would know like the ground operation in detail. So they should have brought up someone who was like the commander from that particular unit or whatever. And the reason why you won't want to do that is because you don't want to reveal secrets on how the Secret Service is run. So all of that with the CIA director was just for show because the representatives knew that she wasn't going to, she didn't have the information, and they knew that, but they needed to have a scapegoat. So she was just a scapegoat. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Listen, hang on a second, Joe. We've got to say goodbye to Ben to be respectful to his time.
Thanks,
Ben,
guys.
thank you very much indeed for coming back on Uncensored. I appreciate it. We're joined by Chris Murray from the Chris and Harry Unplugged. And I'll come to see Dave Pearson as well. But Dave Smith, you've been sitting next to me here, even though we're looking down barrels of different cameras. You wanted to get in there. You were aghast about something. I'm not quite sure what it was.
Well, look, okay, there's just a couple things here. First of all, I do understand why people object to the use of the term coup. However, for Joe to say, well, this was just Joe Biden made a decision, like, that's pretty misleading also. The truth is that Joe Biden did make his decision. His decision was to stay in the race. He made this.
How is that misleading if he said that before he ran, he said he wanted the next generation to run? So that happened, right? So he didn't want to run another term, is what he actually said earlier on. So that was actually the first thing he said. Then he became president. He decided to stay because he thought he would be the best person to defeat Trump. The first presidential debate took place. He's seeing the numbers, he's seeing the polls, he's seeing the rhetoric. He realized that his initial claim still stands, but now, based off like the performance, he was not the best person to beat Donald Trump. So he went back to his initial statement of the next generation. I'm not the best person to beat Trump. I thought I was, so we'll have the next generation do it. So how about we use the full context, Dave Smith, of Joe Biden's rhetoric in regards to him running. So if this is like the full context, then your context of, oh, he said he wanted to stay, and now all of a sudden he doesn't, even though in his letter he said he didn't want to stay, he changed his mind. But no, that full context doesn't matter. It's because that doesn't fit your rhetoric. Oh, gotcha.
It's very, very clear. Up to Sunday morning, on the Sunday morning news shows, campaign surrogates were going out saying he's staying in the race. It's Biden versus Trump. Now, it's not exactly that he made a decision. Big donors and political operatives and the corporate press all turned their back on him and said, we are going to force your hand. And essentially, he was forced out.
I hate people like this. Like, all they care about is spitting a narrative. Isn't that why you Republicans hate the media? Like the spinning the narrative stuff? Like, I hate that shit too. But I don't know how you can hate it and then do the same thing. Like, do exactly what they do, but arguably worse. It's crazy.
On top of that, look, I'm not claiming to know anything that we don't know. It is incredibly
exactly
bizarre
what you're claiming.
that the president of the United States of America, a few weeks out from the convention, decided to pull out of the race and did not address the nation. Now, you can say he had COVID. I don't care. He's the sitting president of the United States. For it to come out on personal, stationary, and then in a tweet, he endorses Kamala Harris, and now we're being told we're going to hear from him tomorrow night. That is just incredibly bizarre, and it is understandable why people speculate about what was really going on behind the scenes. The truth is that none of us really know what type of internal pressure was put on Joe Biden, what type of threats were made. So the fact...
Again, I'm neutral, by the way. Every time a Republican says something, I agree. Completely true. Fact. Neutral, by the way.
That people would speculate about that, I think, is totally reasonable. On the other point, the idea that Republicans are would never question Donald Trump, he's their God emperor, they would never think about another nominee. The problem with this this narrative from the left is that it just reality flies in the face of it. Look, there was a National Review entire issue dedicated to never Trump in 2016. Mitt Romney, the previous nominee, came out and gave us.
Let me hear what he's saying right here, because his first point was a bad point. He didn't address anything Joe Walsh said, to be honest. Sometimes people come into these. I need to stop pausing. I'm sorry, but I need to explain these things. sometimes people come into these and have talking points ready, so they don't really listen to what you're saying. He addressed nothing Joe Walsh said in terms of the delegates and in terms of any Democrats wanting to come up. He doesn't care about any of that. That has nothing to do with this talking point.
Joe Biden, what type of threats were made. So the fact that people would speculate about that, I think was Joe Biden, what type of threats were made. So the fact that people would speculate about that, I think was totally reasonable. On the other point, the idea that Republicans are like, would never question Donald Trump. He's their God emperor. They would never think about another nominee. The problem with this,
Okay, so he didn't pay attention to the bigger point that was made. Now, all he's going to try to debunk the idea that Republicans are not blindly following Trump. The point of that is that the Republicans who do support Trump are supporting him down a cliff. They are blindly following him. You naming some Republicans who don't follow him is meaningless. What?
Narrative from the left is that it just reality flies in the face of it. Look, there was a National Review entire issue dedicated to never Trump in 2016. Mitt Romney, the previous nominee, came out and gave a speech. Anyone but Donald Trump. This year, all of the big donor money was going to DeSantis and Nikki Haley. All of the powerful forces within the Republican establishment have been trying to get anybody else except Donald Trump. The difference between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump, however you feel about him, has tens of millions of Americans who love him and want him to be the nominee. And there's no Democrat who has anything like that.
I agree. CJ has been waiting patiently.
No one gets to respond to him, though. I'm neutral, by the way.
No, hang on, Francesco, I'll come to you in a moment. CJ Pearson, can you tell me what brat means, given it's the word that's all over the news, and you're probably the only one young enough on the panel to know what it means?
Yeah, you know, as the resident Gen Z here, it seems as if Kamala Harris is having a crack.
Yo, did he get to speak at all? I know he's a lefty. That's probably why he's not allowed to speak. If this guy ends up being a right winger, and he got to speak before, oh boy, on the bottom right, I'm neutral, by the way.
Hang on, Francesco, I'll come to you in a moment. CJ Pearson, can you tell me what brat means, given it's the word that's all over the news, and you're probably the only one young enough on the panel to know what it means? Apart from Francesco.
You know, as the resident Gen Zer here, it seems as if Kamala Harris is having a bracker all summer, which actually means that she actually doesn't know what's going on. It's a state of deliriousness.
Yep, right winger. I'm neutral, by the way.
State of delusion. It's like you're just going along to get along, but that's kind of how Kamala Harris has led her entire political career. She's just been a coconut falling from a coconut tree. She just lands in a place and hopes that the American people will go along with it as this coordination has taken place. You know, Dave absolutely hit all the right points. Donald Trump went through a spirited Republican
So the new guy who comes on the platform gets to speak before the guy on the bottom right. Yo, Piers Morgan is a joke, bro. In terms of this neutrality he claims, just call yourself center right, and I'll be able to believe you a little bit more. The amount of time Ben, Dave Smith, and now this guy had to talk compared to the left wingers is night and day right now. There's not even close to equal. Oh my goodness.
Primary process where he knocked every single one of them out one by one. What's happening right now, which is so ironic and so hypocritical, is that the party that is supposedly so against voter suppression is now disenfranchising millions of Democrat voters who voted for Joe.
Republicans using the word hypocrisy when they exist blows me away.
Biden to be their nominee. They bully a senile old man out of office just so that they could have a chance at winning in November. It's disgusting, it's wrong, it's anti-democratic, and dare I say, it's a threat to democracy.
Yo, you should vote Joe Biden. Vote Joe. You should bring him back into the race. Defend him.
Hang on, let me go to Chris. From Chris and Harry Unplugged. He's also been waiting a long time to get in here. Probably even younger, so knows even more what brat means. Kamala Harris, I mean, what do you make of the new threat to Donald Trump? He's going to tear up his entire playbook, which was to beat an old guy, to now go after a much younger black woman. It's a completely different proposition for Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Republicans and Trump are panicking, and I think you've seen it in the last 10 or 20 minutes. If they want to run, if the PR play for Republicans wants to be that Democrats are a threat to democracy, that Democrats are doing something undemocratic, Donald Trump and Republicans like CJ Pearson want to run on that, I think Democrats are in a great position in November. They have nothing. And to the last point about, everybody in this party has to bend the knee to Donald Trump. CJ Pearson would not be sitting where he is if he didn't go and praise Donald Trump and have a Trump banner in his header. I mean, CJ's somebody who, in his primary election that he lost, he called voter fraud against his Republican counterpart. And so, in the Democrat world, we've had fierce debates about our candidate, and it's been hard, but we have values and morals that actually matter over just bowing the knee to one man. And so I think Democrats are in a great position. And she's clearly popular because she's fundraised more money than anyone in political history.
Damn, he cooked. He cooked. Now, I'm not claiming to be neutral in this video, but if I was hosting a show, which I might in the future, I would be neutral. I would be. But I wouldn't claim to be neutral and then not be neutral in that. I have my own opinions. I'm not leaning left or anything. I'm not a Democrat, but my opinions is I'm going to tell you what I think. It has nothing to do with allegiances. But if you're claiming to be a neutral moderator for a show, then do that. But if you're going to note yourself as I have opinions, I like Donald Trump, then just say you like Donald Trump, Piers. But he's not going to say that because he wants to seem neutral, even though he's not.
I wouldn't expect to hear anything less from a Democrat, from a DNC paid show like Chris Mowry. But what I'll say to this is that Kamala Harris is nothing.
You notice. I'm going to call him out. I swear, I'm calling him out every time he does something that's not neutral. He was about to move on to Francesca. And if this was Francesca talking to respond, he would force her to stop talking so the other person can talk. He just kept talking. He didn't stop him. He didn't even try. He didn't even attempt. Okay.
Thing more than a pandering shadow. And she is in the same situation that Joe Biden is in. She is not running the show whatsoever. And what she'll realize is that Black Girl Summer will not be enough to change the hearts and minds of America's young people, because
I am pausing so much. I can't help it. I'm commentating. I have to talk about the dumb things that I hear. So the first thing he went to is, oh, but the DNC is the one really controlling the government. Okay, all right, whatever, buddy. And then the other thing, he went back to Black Girl Summer. Like, dude, shut up. Is that all you can do? Black Girl Summer?
Kamala Harris. What you won't have is a Black Girl Summer. What you will have is a Broke Girl Summer as a result of the runaway.
Yo, that was so cringe. Oh, I'm not gonna make fun of you, my dude. You don't need that right now.
Inflation that we're experiencing under the Biden-Harris administration as a result of the record high gas prices we've seen under their administration. Their leadership is absent of any leadership.
All of these points are just jumbled. And
then you got nothing to worry about, CJ. No, then CJ, if you're right, if Kamala Harris is nothing, you should be smiling. You should be celebrating right now. You got nothing to worry about.
I am celebrating. I am smiling.
Good.
I mean, yeah, that's what I think is sort of just incredible about just two things I'll push back on. The idea that it's a coronation. Once again, in 2020 panel, how many primary challengers did incumbent President Donald Trump have? None.
And two other.
Why? Because he was the incumbent president. This is an incumbency, right? And so the idea that this is like, how dare they also, it's not democratic. No, Harris is the effing vice president, been on the ticket since Joe Biden was elected back in 2020. Obviously, people thought he was going to be the incumbent and run again. Then his brain did a coup on his body and himself and his whole campaign. And here we are where we are. The other thing about the donors, I think it's very funny. Because the reason that Donald Trump on the other side picked your boy JD Vance, even though he hates facial hair, is because JD Vance came along with a bunch of venture capitalists, guys like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Horowitz, to absolutely help this campaign out with all of their AI-funded tech crypto billionaire money that wants to put us all out of a job. In 3 years, this will just be a panel of AI experts, and honestly, God bless them.
Well, we have
cooking. I don't agree with we're going to be out of the jobs because of AI experts thing. I don't agree to that. But cooking.
on the panel.
I don't think there's any robot in the world that could mirror what you're like, Francesca. I have to say. I think your position is safe.
True, Brad.
It has
True,
to be a
Brad
very
over here.
sophisticated AI. CJ, let me just ask CJ, and I'll come to Dave to also join in on this. When you look at Kamala Harris, like I said, if Trump goes ad hominem, which is his normal preferred method of attack on any opponent, I think it could backfire. However, there is lots of stuff on Kamala's record which I think he can really pick her up about. Most notably, the fact that she's been the immigration czar for the United States of America for the last 2 years, when immigration has been running completely out of control. And if I was Trump, I'd just keep asking, didn't you just have one job? Wasn't that the job you had to do? And even when she was asked, have you been to the border, she came out with this extraordinary response, well, I haven't been to Europe either, as if that was anything relevant to the discussion. So I think the way she's handled the one thing she was given special responsibility for, if I'm the Republicans, I'm going after that morning, noon, and night.
Fair. That's a good
Piers,
point.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we do, find ourselves, in a hole when we continue to talk things about, her sexual history and all of those things. I think there's no need to discuss those things. I think there are a lot of other things.
Motherfucker, you just said black girl summer and then board girl summer. Okay.
Disqualifying about Kamala Harris, including her blatant hypocrisy. She locked up countless of non-violent young black men for smoking weed, only to go on the Breakfast Club and brag about how much weed she smoked. This is also someone, as you said, who is in control of our national security as it relates to the border and absolutely dropped the ball there time and again. She has shown that she is not deserving of promotion. The only reason that we are even having this conversation on her as a nominee of the Democrat Party, aside from coordination, is because she's a DEI hire. She was a DEI hire when she became vice president because he had to get.
What is ad hominem again? Let me look this up. Ad hominem. Appeal to prejudice or feelings, or irrelevantly impugn another person's character instead of addressing the facts or claims by the latter. Let me read this again. An ad hominem is the type of argument or attack that appeals to prejudice or feelings or relevantly impugns on another person's character instead of addressing the facts or claims made by the latter. Irrelevant impugns another person's character. Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. Where's the facts? Where's the facts or policy? Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. Yep.
Black women on board this campaign. They couldn't skip over Kamala Harris because they were afraid of upsetting black women if they did so. That is exactly what.
This dude is a fucking. He agrees that we shouldn't do ad hominem attacks, and now he's attacking her for being a black woman. Like, yo, this guy is a fucking tool.
Why she bided her time. She covered up the fact that Joe Biden was mentally unfit and mentally unwell and mentally incapable of carrying on the banner of the Democrat Party because she knew that she could not win an open Democratic primary herself. She knew that she did not have the fortitude to do so. And we saw that. It was demonstrable in 2020. She didn't win a single primary state. She didn't even make it to Iowa, Piers. And if you think that if she can't beat Pete Buttigieg and all of those folks, Tulsi Gabbard, you think that she can beat Donald J. Trump after what he has endured, after the feckless prosecutions, after the attempted assassination? Then I've got some great real estate in Alaska to tell you. It's insane.
Okay, let me bring in. I want to bring in Dave Smith about one particular point. I saw one of the polls today.
How are you going to let two right-wingers respond in a row? How are you not going to let a single person respond to all the bullshit he just mentioned? How are you going to ask him a solo question, but nobody gets to respond to that question? Piers Morgan is such a fucking... Bro, let me relax. I'm not trying to attack him. I need to calm down. I'm not trying to. It's just annoying when you present yourself one way. And I'm just annoyed that the right keeps on doing it, where they try to make them seem like they're appealing to the people and people's interests and be all these nuanced and neutral type of individuals. I want them to be that, because I used to lean more right. I would say I lean more right, to be honest, like pro-military, think that we shouldn't do anything to the military budget. I think we should fund the police more. But but like a lot of them recently have just been fucking pathetic. It's 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 crazy. These are educated people. I assumed, right? It just annoys me, man. It just annoys
which
me.
was matching up Kamala Harris against Trump. Significantly, amongst young people, a big gap between them. And a lot of that people are putting down to the fact that young people actually did feel that what Trump did when he was shot was a remarkably ballsy thing. And it became a really big social media sort of emblem of defiance and strength and courage and all these things, which were...
So we're going to ask questions about Kamala Harris and how Kamala Harris, this is how you should attack her. But as for Donald Trump, we're going to focus on talking about how Donald Trump has been doing such a great job, why he's so ballsy, and why he was so brave for him to deal with the assassination and him leading in the polls. The way you frame everything regarding Donald Trump is positive. Kamala Harris is negative. Piers Morgan, you're not neutral, man.
Things that maybe young people hadn't associated with Trump, but suddenly they saw this image of him punching the air, blood all over his face, surviving an assassination attempt, and they thought, you know what, that's, as Mark Zuckerberg said, probably the first time in his life, that was badass by Trump. How significant do you think the failed assassination attempt is going to be, particularly young people?
Well, I think, look, I think that it helped Donald Trump tremendously. I think it's one of those things where it's like I remember going to the opera with my wife, and I've never been to the opera before. But when you hear
this, I don't care about this question about just sucking off Donald Trump about how the young voters might like him now. Like, I don't care. I'm being honest. I'm skipping this entire response.
I want to say, as a Gen Zer, I just disagree with this. This consistent notion that Kamala Harris is unpopular. Again, yesterday we saw the largest fundraising day in American political history through Act Blue, grassroots donors, $5, $10, $25. Gen Z is excited for a candidate objectively that's younger, a woman, and somebody who's been like a champion on things like climate and gun reform, etc. And I think that Gen Z specifically, as a generation, me myself, I've never seen America at peace. It's been nothing but chaos since I was born in 2002. And we're looking back now and saying, wow, this is really at a boiling point. And what
you're a tool.
Has caused this, and what's caused this is Trump and the MAGA movement doing nothing but pushing division all the time with the lies and the disgusting, hateful rhetoric. And I think that Gen Z is fired up to move on, to get candidates that actually care about us.
Let me ask you this. You talk about hateful rhetoric from the right to the left, and that definitely has been. It's indisputable. But what about the hateful rhetoric from the left to the right? For example, for 8 years...
You notice that he always wants to push back against someone on the left saying something, but someone on the right saying something. I agree. Completely true. Maybe when you get like old, you just stop really caring about this stuff and just kind of just do whatever you want. Maybe that's what it is. No,
I've heard people on the left from the top down refer to Trump as the new Hitler, as Adolf Hitler, as if somehow he's presiding over a Nazi-style regime, which, if you're too young to remember perhaps, but the Nazis killed 12 million people, including murdering 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So it's hard to imagine a more offensive or vile slur or more hateful rhetoric than to compare Donald Trump, who's done none of those things, to Adolf Hitler. So do you accept that people on the left have been just as guilty of hateful rhetoric and contributing to the general toxicity of the debate as people on the right?
Sure, but I do want to point out that, the person who's actually called Donald Trump's America's Hitler is J.D. Vance, his current running mate. J.D. Vance was someone who is very staunchly...
Well, that was wrong too.
If you look at elected officials across the board, Democrats have consistently been the ones to calm the tensions. And look, I disagree with calling him America's Hitler, but if I call Donald Trump a dictator or a threat to democracy, I think it's almost dishonest to not call him that. This is somebody who tried to overturn an election he didn't win with evidence that he didn't win it. And so I don't understand how it's hateful to say that he's a threat to democracy or he's moving us toward authoritarianism. And again, I think that the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who said things like he's America's Hitler goes to the fact that, you have to
he's cooking.
give
I know
up
you
all
want
your
to
morals
slow
and
down.
all your values and bow to Donald Trump in this party.
Piers,
All right, let me get a response to that from CJ.
Piers, that's absolutely insane. For Chris to sit here and say that it's dishonest for him not to call Donald Trump a dictator is absolutely laughable. Maybe if Chris actually visited a country with a real dictatorship, he would realize that under a system of governance where real dictators didn't exist, the conversation, the debate, the discourse that we're having wouldn't even at all.
So his point is he's moving towards a dictatorship, not that we are currently in a dictatorship.
be possible, but that's all they traffic in is all of this hyperbolic rhetoric that has actually no semblance of reality, because they don't actually know how to defeat the president, because he delivered for the American people time and again during his presidency. We had the lowest black unemployment rate. We had record economic growth. We had a secure southern border. All of those things are policy wins that Joe Biden can't brag about.
The southern border was secure because he shut it down during COVID. Like, I don't know why none of them can be honest about the reality of like a lot of the things that you like about Donald Trump.
Exactly why Kamala Harris has to talk about a black girl summer. But here's the reality. Under Kamala Harris, you're going to have a broke girl summer, a broke girl fall.
You said that already. You said that.
That's what their policies do.
Come on.
You said that already.
Stop.
We heard you.
Yeah, you've said that already. Great. You've got 100 more days to say that. God bless you. Your candidate's winning. We'll see if Kamala Harris can catch him or not. Piers, just a couple quick points. To Dave Smith, I appreciate the fact that he's a dad in his 40s. I'm a dad in my 60s. Look, I don't belong to either party. I'm not a Democrat. Dave and I probably agree on most policy issues. The difference is I think Trump is a unique existential threat to our democracy. So I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. Piers, to you made a great point early. You said we're living in unprecedented times. A month ago, an 81-year-old candidate for president had a debate and showed that he was not at all ready to continue to be a candidate. He was too old. And the entire Democratic Party rightfully panicked. It is a party process. It's not an election. The party convinced him to step aside, and he made that final decision. This is how the process in each party works. There's nothing undemocratic about it.
Joe Walsh?
Yeah. I just want to say that I think it is wrong to compare Donald Trump to Hitler.
Yeah, Francesca, yeah.
I agree. I think it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to compare him to someone, it's obviously Mussolini. Okay, much more of a showman, great jawline. I think that is where it happens. And look, Donald Trump by his own admission said he would be a dictator, but only on day one. So guys, let's just listen to him, take him at his word. Yeah. So
but you know the problem, Francesca. Listen. Here's a problem. Funny though your quip just was, and maybe you meant it or not. The truth is, I've just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the result of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not in the United States. He had to go that day.
Have you read?
What the fuck are you talking about, Piers? Hold up.
Well, the truth is, I've just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the results of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not president of the United States.
Oh.
He had to go that day.
Have you read?
Bang.
Oh, okay. My bad, Piers. My bad. See, maybe you're right. Maybe we do get crazy. But I listened to you. I rewinded and make sure that I didn't hear you wrong. So, hey, my bad. I get it. I understand what you're saying.
First of all, we know.
So the checks and balances did work.
I mean, I don't understand. We know you talk to Trump regularly, Piers. I'm surprised you don't have a white bandage on your ear right now, honestly. And we've seen and we've read all 920 pages of Project 2025, and in it says that instead of the police, the military should be patrolling the streets. The military.
Time and again.
That is
the president
disavowed it, even though every single person.
He did say that, and then we see JD Vance kind of endorsing Project 2025. So the vice president looking like he kind of likes Project 2025. I'm just saying.
And who wrote it was a former Trump advisor. Come on, give me a break. Stephen Miller is an
President Trump
activist.
himself has said that
Are
he
you
does
kidding
not
me?
support Project 2025.
He
You're
didn't
supposed
say
to
that.
think that you believe
He didn't
more
say
about what
that.
President Trump believes and what he has said himself. He believes. It's
CJ,
crazy.
Oh, you know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
If you want to see what President Trump believes, go to DonaldJTrump.com. Read Agenda
Oh, I
47.
love that. Wait,
CJ,
Read Agenda 47.
How about this? How about we don't go with what's in his heart and we go with the 4-year track record? I mean, the problem here is that, and look, to your point, obviously the rhetoric on both sides has been elevated tremendously over the last few years. Been very divisive times in this country.
They're not even.
And both sides are guilty of this or right to do it, however you look at it. But people do lose their collective minds when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, these comparisons, the idea that he's some Hitlerian figure is ridiculous. Even the comparison to Mussolini, this is all silliness. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well, but These are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing in. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to 11 as if there's some existential threat to the republic that isn't, by the way, you want to know the real existential threat to, hold on just one second, let me finish. The real existential threat to our republic right now is that debt is over, the interest on our debt is overtaking our entire budget. And this is something that Democrats and Republicans are both guilty of. So they don't want to talk about that.
I agree to that. I'm actually agree to a lot of points that Dave Smith is actually saying, but the problem for me, at the very least, and I'll make a video about it, is that Donald Trump. I'm not mad. I'm not like upset, or I don't dislike him because of his presidency. I think it was bad, obviously. Like Dave Smith said, there's a lot of bad policy that he enforced. My issue with Donald Trump is his rhetoric. Like you said, it's bombastic, it's manipulative, and it's been manipulating the people. And then some of the other things he's been saying recently, making it, and then obviously January 6th was a problem after his presidency. So a lot of it is the rhetoric during his presidency that really riled up the people, made them very populist, made them very conspiratorial. January 6th played into it, and then his current presidential election run and things he's been saying that he would do if he's president again. That is why I don't like Trump. Not necessarily his policies or policies enforced during his presidency. I'll go into detail
because it's, you know, it condemns both of them. But the reality of the situation is that whatever happened on January 6th that got out of control, there certainly was violence there. Donald Trump got on a plane and went back to Mar-a-Lago. He was never calling in the military. There was never a chance that he was going to institute a dictatorship in the United States of America. This is all election nonsense. And I'll tell you something, Democrats, you better figure out something else to run against, because this whole Kamala Harris is a prosecutor and Donald Trump is a felon. The American people have rejected this already. No one cares about these charges that wouldn't have been brought to any other former president, okay? This isn't going to do it. You got to have something of substance. You know, the problem is what you guys could actually run against is that Donald Trump was such a disaster through all of 2020, and he kept Fauci on the job, and he kept Americans locked down. The problem is you guys were criticizing him for not locking down harder. So I don't know what angle you're going to find. There's plenty of flaws in him. The problem is you guys are worse on most of the issues he's bad on.
David, be better than that. Quit saying you guys. Everybody opposes Donald Trump for their own reason. Quit saying you guys. And I'm sorry, quit saying those of us who do believe, and you can disagree, Dave, those of us who do believe Trump is a unique threat to democracy, quit saying we've lost our minds. Come on, man. I haven't lost my mind.
Absolutely lost your mind.
I'm older.
Wait, absolutely lost your mind.
Hold on, CJ. Let me finish, CJ. I'm older than you, Dave and CJ. In my lifetime, I've never seen a president lose an election and refuse to concede. I've never seen a president try to overthrow the results of that election. You can disagree with the severity of that.
Hold on 1 second. Let's just be real specific here.
Hold on. Let him finish.
January 6th, 2021. Real specific for you, my guy.
Wait, this is Dave and CJ, I feel like are not willing to look into the deeper aspects. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who's had a whole fake electors plot, sent fake electors to my state of Georgia, and tried to, essentially take the will of the people away. He had the Department of Justice in the Oval Office demanding that they sign a letter that
Piers is now finally being neutral. He's letting them talk. He's letting the lefties talk. He's letting the righties talk. Just let them talk, moderate. Okay.
With a DOJ header that said they believed there was election interference, and 2 DOJ officials resigned over that. Again, it is so dishonest to say that Donald Trump was normal, or that people are losing their minds when they say he's a threat to democracy. I mean, he tried and went through every single illegal and legal action to overturn the election. And why people are freaked out is because if you have another Trump presidency where he could install loyalists, all of a sudden those checks and balances.
Let me just, because you guys
invalidated
under a don't talk over each other.
Constitution.
Dave and CJ, let me just make one more point.
CJ, and I'll come to Dave, and then we'll wrap.
I'll shut up for good. One more point. It's now Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. It's Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris loses in November, Kamala Harris will concede and she'll accept the will of the people. If Donald Trump loses in November, he won't and he won't. That is a threat.
I just want to
make one. Look, here's I would say, and I want like honestly,
they have not learned their lesson.
Hold on, let me just respond to.
Let Dave respond, then I'll come to CJ.
So if I were to say right now, I want to overthrow democracy in the United States of America and institute a dictatorship, I don't think anyone on the panel is very freaked out by that, because I have no power to do it. Like, it doesn't really matter if I want to do it or not. Now, I will kind of.
That was terrible. That was a terrible point. Comparing you to Donald Trump is a terrible point.
agree with you guys. I just thought the way Trump handled the 2020 election was terrible. I did think he was kind of using like bully tactics when he called the Secretary of State in Georgia there. But the bottom line is that he had no mechanism to actually overthrow democracy. And that was totally...
J.D. Vance literally said if he was Mike Pence, he would have listened to Trump and it would have stalled the election. Oh,
like impotent attempt to even do it. So listen, hold on. Let me just finish, because I let you guys go for a second. Let me just finish making my point here. This is the problem with him going to this well over and over again. It was never actually a threat to overthrow democracy. If you want to talk about people who haven't accepted the results of elections, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey Abrams, they all like have said these were illegitimate elections or there was outside interference. There is nothing. Look, you guys are, listen, just hear me for a second. Consider, yes, they conceded. Okay, so they conceded and he didn't. Okay, so by the magical power of saying I concede, that somehow makes us a democracy and not a dictatorship. You guys are obsessing over this thing that most Americans don't actually care that much about.
I agree. We've got to leave it there. We've run out.
That's a terrible point because most Americans don't know the details of what actually happened.
Time. Great panel. Thank you all very much indeed, and come back soon. I appreciate it. Well, I'm joined now by the host of No Spin News and the author of the forthcoming book, Confronting the President.
Is that all? Is that... Okay. Well, that is... I only wanted to see the panel debate personally. Piers Morgan is biased towards Donald Trump for some reason. I mean, he has his number in his phone, so I guess that's the reason why. But it is what it is. That's all we got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.